on the outskirts of Merrow Creek. Where the trees curve in like curious onlookers, there stand a house unlike any other, tall, gray, and unnaturally silent. It hunches against the sky like it's trying to hide something. There are no windows, not a single pane of glass, just flat walls, wooden, rotting in places, as if the house is slowly suffocating from the inside. Locals avoid the cul-de-sac it sits on. They whisper about it in hardware stores and dusty diners, but they never go near. Except me. I'm Alex Granger, urban explorer, documentary freak, horror junkie. And when I heard about this house, I didn't run from it. I ran toward it. I parked 2 blocks away. Even in daylight, the house feels wrong. The closer I got, the quieter everything became. No birds, no wind, just the sound of my breath. A single porch light flickered on, though I hadn't seen power lines nearby. No visible wiring, no solar panels, and yet light. I circled the structure, half expecting to find a boarded up side or maybe hidden vents. But it was seamless. No gaps, no signs of life, no eyes to see out, but I felt watched. Before venturing in, I stopped by May's Diner, last stop before the dead end. Inside, the usual clatter and sizzle died when I mentioned the house. Old-timer Tom lifted his coffee and muttered, "Wasn't built for people. That place, it listens. You don't go knocking on a house that never learned how to blink." I laughed it off, but May, the owner, didn't. Folks disappear near it. Sounds dumb, but it's true. 3 kids last year dared each other to knock. Their bikes were found in the woods. No one ever saw them again. That night, I did some digging at the Merrow Creek Library. Dusty files. Old land surveys. The property was listed as built in 1953, but no name was ever tied to it. No permits. No construction company. No records of renovation. Just a 1-line description. Do not disturb. No census data. No property tax history. And curiously, no mention of the house in town archives before 1992. It's as if the town remembered the house, only when it wanted to. That night, I dreamed about the house. I was inside. The walls pulsed. Not metaphorically, they breathed. No light, just warmth. Too much warmth, like being buried alive. I heard murmurs, whispers in languages I didn't recognize, and yet I understood them. They said, "Return." I woke up sweating. My phone was dead, and outside my motel window, a single porch light glowing in the distance. I returned the next day. I told myself it was for documentation, a story, but something deeper pulled me back, like invisible hooks in my spine. The house looked the same, but the air was different. Heavy, charged. The porch light was on again, flickering faster now. A rhythm, almost like it was communicating. I raised my camera. As I clicked the shutter, the screen went black. The lens fogged. When it cleared, the house had changed. There was now a small wooden hatch near the base of the foundation. I swear it wasn't there yesterday. I crouched near the hatch, the wood cold beneath my fingers. As I touched it, a breath of air escaped from inside, warm, moist, unnatural. It carried a scent I can only describe as old blood and rain-soaked earth. And then I heard it, whispers from the other side of the wood. Dozens of voices, all speaking at once. But none sounded human. I stumbled back, heart racing. That hatch wasn't just an entrance. It was a mouth, and it had just exhaled. I returned to the Merrow Creek Library that evening, desperate for answers. An old clerk, Miss Holloway, was shelving a book when I approached. When I asked about the house, her hands froze mid-air. "That place was never meant to be seen," she said, voice trembling. "It wasn't built for us. It's older than this town, older than the land it sits on." She handed me a dusty folder from a restricted drawer. It was built during a blackout. No one remembers the builders, but people remember what happened after. Inside the folder were yellowed clippings and brittle photographs. One showed a group of men in early 1950s clothing standing in front of the incomplete house frame. Their faces were blurred, not from camera error, but scratched out by hand. Another clipping read, 6 workers vanished during construction. Officials cite land instability, but there was no record of their names. No families, no graves. The final page was a child's drawing, crayon on the back of a receipt. It showed a boxy house, no windows, and long black arms reaching from its walls. Scrawled underneath in shaky handwriting, "It eats the light." That night, I couldn't sleep. Not from fear. Something else. A low humming filled my motel room. I traced it to my backpack. My camera, long dead, had powered itself back on. The screen flickered and played a short clip I never recorded. A first-person view walking down a narrow hallway. Inside the house, the walls were wet. Breathing. Something moved ahead, too tall, too thin. And then it turned. It had no eyes. Just smooth, stretched skin and a mouth where the window should have been. I threw the camera into the motel sink and stepped outside to clear my head. But something was wrong. The street lights were off. My car interior light was flickering. Then I noticed it down the road in the tree line. The house. It had moved. It was no longer at the end of the cul-de-sac. It was closer now, about 5 blocks down, standing silently, waiting, and the porch light was blinking again, faster, like a heartbeat. I went back at dawn. Something told me I had to enter. The wooden hatch at the base of the house opened with barely a touch. No lock, no creak, like it had been waiting. Inside was a crawl space, not made of concrete or dirt, but a narrow passage lined with splintered wood and rusted nails. The air was humid and coppery, thick with the scent of rot. My flashlight flickered. Then I heard it, a voice, a child's voice, whimpering, "Don't shut the door, please." I turned. The hatch had vanished, gone, as if it never existed. I emerged into what looked like a room, but it wasn't built with normal intention. The walls sloped awkwardly inward, like they'd been forced together. One wall was covered in newspaper, articles glued one over the other. I peeled back a few layers. The deeper I went, the older they became. 1953, 1931, 1887, and then one written in a language I didn't recognize at all. Handwritten, jagged. The headline was smeared with a dark red stain. It read, "They tried to bury it. It remembered." I made it out by nightfall. I don't remember how, but I brought one of the clippings with me. The stained one. I brought it to Miss Holloway. The clerk. Her eyes went wide. "That's not English. That's Leshig, old pagan language. Cult stuff. Very old. No one speaks it anymore." She paused. This wasn't a house. Not originally. The ground it sits on used to be called the womb. Ritual grounds. Supposedly where something fell from the sky in the 1600s. They say the soil remembers what bled into it. What was it built to keep out? I asked. She looked at me, eyes hollow. No, it was built to keep something in. Digging deeper into town records, I found a single reference to the house's construction in a forgotten ledger at City Hall. The builder's name had been violently scratched out, but beside it a small, chilling note. Not hired. Arrived. There was no address, just a circle on the page, drawn in ink surrounding the lot, and below it, in careful script, he said the house will know when it's full. Full of what? That night, I followed a tip from an anonymous message left on my motel door. It led me to the far edge of Merrill Creek Cemetery, where the ground was strangely warm. I found a sunken, unmarked grave plot surrounded by dead grass. A broken stake stood in the center, with a rusted plaque reading, "The First Offering." Suddenly, the ground shifted beneath me. I nearly lost my balance. Something was buried under there, but it wasn't at rest. And then, behind me, a whisper. "Low, male, too late. It knows your name now." I reviewed my audio recorder the next day. During my visit to the grave, I hadn't heard anything unusual, just the whisper. But on the playback, there was more. A voice layered beneath my own breathing. "Return forgotten. Feed the house. Let the walls grow full again." And then static. And then laughter. Children's laughter. Not joyful. Not alive. Just repeated. as of a recording trapped in the boards of that house, replaying itself for eternity. I met with Dr. Harold Green, a retired trauma psychologist who had once treated residents of Merrill Creek. He didn't flinch when I mentioned the house. I had 4 patients describe the same place, he told me, all without knowing each other. No windows, no exits, only walls that whispered. 2 of them disappeared within a month. 1 committed suicide. The last one just stopped speaking entirely. He showed me one of the patient's drawings, identical to the house, but there was a phrase scribbled across the bottom in block letters. It seethes with memory. It feeds on being watched. Desperate to make sense of it, I tried something I'd seen in old paranormal experiments. I placed a mirror against the house's wall, camera recording. For a full hour, nothing. But when I reviewed the footage, the reflection in the mirror wasn't me. It was someone else, in the same position, same clothes. But the reflection was smiling, slowly, deliberately. Worse, in the final frame before the battery died, the reflection turned to look at something behind it, something not visible in real life. I found an old podcast interview with fringe architect, Marla Voss, who specialized in resonance design. She claimed certain shapes and builds can amplify spiritual frequencies. In the interview, she referenced the Merrill Creek house. It's not architecture, she said. It's containment. No windows, no echoes. All the energy stays inside. That house was designed not to breathe, but to digest. I contacted her. She never responded. Her website? Gone. Erased completely. Back at the house, I noticed something new. A dent in the outer wall. A soft give, like the wood had become flesh. I pressed harder. It opened inward, forming a narrow door that hadn't existed before. Inside, a pitch-black room. Floorless, wall-less, a vacuum of space where sound died. My flashlight couldn't pierce it. And then, a child's laugh, faint, floating, and the feeling of breath on the back of my neck. I left before anything touched me, or took me. That night, I dreamed I was inside the house again, but this time I couldn't wake up. The hallways stretched like intestines. The wallpaper pulsed with veins. I saw doors now, but they didn't open. Instead, they watched. Eyeless knots and would seem to follow me as I moved. One door throbbed open. Inside, I saw myself, curled in a corner, whispering over and over, "It's me. It's always been me." When I finally awoke, my hands were covered in splinters. The next morning, I noticed something disturbing in the footage I'd recorded weeks ago. In the background of older clips shot before I'd ever gone to a house, there it was, the house, standing behind trees, reflected faintly in windows, appearing for frame in alleyways I never walked past. It had been with me before I even knew it existed, as if it was remembering me first. I returned one last time, drawn by a feeling I couldn't explain. I stepped to the front door, which had never been opened before. Inside was worse than I imagined. Not dust or rot, just silence. The air was heavy, damp like the inside of lungs. The floorboards pulsed beneath my boots. I took one step and felt it exhale. The walls trembled, not from decay, from recognition. In the central hallway, I found them, hundreds of photos nailed to the walls. Most were too faded to see, but some weren't. Children, teenagers, adults, all different people, all standing in front of the same windowless house. Some smiling, some screaming, some staring at something behind the camera. In the very last photo, me, taken from perspective of someone standing just inside the house. I was outside, walking toward it. I've never taken that photo. At the back of the house, I found a doorway leading to nothing, a room without walls, just fog, floating space. I stepped inside, and the door vanished. Suddenly I was standing in my childhood bedroom, but it wasn't right. The colors were wrong. The sounds too sharp. I blinked and it changed to my first apartment. Then again, to the alley where my father died. The room was stitching itself from my memories. The house wasn't structure. It was a vessel, and now it was downloading me. A voice echoed, not out loud, but in my mind. You are the last, the final memory. A figure emerged from fog, tall, emaciated, eyeless. Its skin stretched smooth where its face should be. It moved with unnatural elegance, like something dreaming of being human. You saw me before you ever looked. You thought you were exploring me, but I was already inside you. It extended a hand, not to harm, to welcome. The house is full. The house gave me a choice. Leave and forget, or stay and become its memory. Its newest room, a witness for all time. I felt it in my bones, the pull, like gravity, like coming home. But I remembered something Miss Holloway said. It only grows if you remember it, if you give it space in your mind. So I ran, not just out of the house, out of town. I deleted the footage, burned the photos, changed my name. I never spoke of Merrow Creek again. But sometimes when I drive late at night, I see a porch light blinking in the trees. Years later, I checked. Merrow Creek is no longer on the map. No roads, no signposts, just forest. The house didn't want to be found anymore. It was full, but now, sometimes I dream of rooms I've never been in, rooms with no windows. And when I wake up, I can't remember how I got out. If you ever see a house with no windows, don't look too long, because the moment it sees you, it remembers.